Hello, everybody. Veritas here. I just like to proceed today's episode with the shout out to Wida WIDA. I've teamed up with him. He's given me this platform to speak to you guys. New YouTube channel. It's at Wida WIDA underscore vision, VISION. And so again, that was WID as in David, A underscore vision on all platforms. If you're a creative and you'd like to feature here, we're looking for content creators, artists, designers, musicians, developers, and much more to get involved. So get in touch if you have talent that you'd like to share and work with some other like-minded creative individuals. The link will be in the description. All right. Let's get going here. So in this episode, we are going to discuss intent, action, reaction. We've discussed some of this stuff in the past, kind of saying that you have the outside world's reaction to what it is you physically did, your action, right? And like Newton said, for every action, there is an equal and opposite or inverted reaction. And it's mathematically precise. It always is, just like a mirror, right? So you have the world reacting to your action, all right? So, but what's interesting is that the action was really a reaction from your intent, and your intent was a reaction to your values, and your values were a reaction to what it is you think you are. Are you your past, or are you limited? Are you your past and limited and needy and defined? Remember, we talked about in the previous episodes that there are two forces in the universe. There's consumer and there's creator. The creative force is less limited, less needy, and less defined. And the vibrational force, the consumer, is more needy, more limited, and more defined. And then you are the frequency. You're kind of all three of them are part of you, but you're in the middle there as the soul. You are the frequency. And your frequency of being a creator is ultimately how unlimited, how unneedy you are, and how undefined you are. How much you are living in the present moment with flow into the future where all things are possible, or how much are you allowing how you lived and live and are living backwards. Live backwards is evil, and if you're living backwards, then you're listening to how you lived instead of how you could live, and lived backwards is devil. So the devil, or the past mind, the past is the vibration, the future is the energy, or the consumer, right? So you have the creator. So you have the future is the energy component, the creator component. It's a less limited, less needy, less defined. The past is more defined, more needy, more limited. And it is also the vibrational component, and your frequency. And the problem is that most of us don't see ourselves as a trinity. We don't see ourselves as both yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We let, as the Bible says, the tail be the head, and we are driven by yesterday. And as Jesus said, you cannot string two bows, you cannot straddle two horses, and you cannot serve two masters. So even though you are these three things, the problem is trying to use what got us out of Egypt, which was perfectly fine then, to get us into the promised land. We are all looking, well, not all of us, but for many people whose lives do not feel content and happy and joyful and full of passion and compassion and love and growth and just awesomeness, is because they are looking backwards. They are listening to the quote unquote devil, right? Not just listening to the devil. They are allowing the past to be the master. So it doesn't mean we want to repress our past or ignore the past, but we want to understand that our past does not define us, right? And so one way that you could tell if you, at any given moment, are in a consumer or a creator mindset, just ask yourself, the thoughts in my head right now, are they defined? Am I defining myself in some way? Am I saying this is how relationships have always been with me, this is how they always will be? Am I saying, is it defined by every time I've gone to go for an interview at a job that I really want, I don't get it? Is it needy? Now, remember, need is not desire. Desire, and will is not necessarily inherently bad. It's actually when we deny the will and we don't listen to it and we repress it or we don't make changes, we don't grow, that the will can become corrupt and make us seek instant gratification, get envious, get wrathful, slothful, things like that. That's just a misappropriated will. So we don't want to deny the body, we don't want to deny the past, and we don't want to deny the will. We want to find a sacred union with our spirit and our will so that it creates a divine will. And we do this by making sure that we appropriate ourselves, our thought, our mind, our beliefs, and stuff like that in such a way that it promotes a creator mindset. And so, one way that you can look at it is kind of intent, action, reaction, right? And so, in this episode, I want to discuss some practical ways that we can start changing our lives, going from kind of the intent, action, reaction, right? So, but this is not the reaction from the world. This is how you will react to things. So your intent would be, I asked you guys a question in a past episode. For those who have heard it, for those and those who didn't, doesn't matter. I'll just repeat it anyways. I asked you, why did you get up this morning? Why'd you get up yesterday? Why will you get up tomorrow? What is your intent? Most people, if you ask them that question, the things are, well, I had to go to work. I had to go to a wedding. I need to go to this. I had to go do this. All of those are, whether we know it or not, programming the outer self, the ego, the subconscious, and saying, there is something that I would not love to do, I would not like to do, that I have to do. And it's supported by a series of beliefs and things like that. And so what we want to do is, over time, beliefs can be pretty embedded in there, and they take some time to dissolve. So it's not always as easy as just saying, I have this belief, I'm just going to poof it away, right? So what I want to do is give you guys some practical measures so that we can start reprogramming what people would call core beliefs or old beliefs. And the way that you do that is the outer self is defined, it's needy, and it's limited. And so the body is the same thing. And so it needs experience and baby steps for it to transform. So you can understand something at a spiritual level, at a high mind level, and now you have to bring that out into the body, into your beliefs and stuff like that. It radiates outwards. So you want to start with baby steps. And so one of the ways that you can start by dissolving the old beliefs is by the most powerful tool you will ever have, and that is your intent. Right? And as I said in previous episodes, you don't do, you think. The body does automatically. The past program, the subconscious, the ego, it's all just a program. It runs by the old belief systems. It doesn't know any better. If you took a person and they didn't have access to God, they didn't have access to source, they didn't have access to any creative juices at all, they are basically a robot. And it will always act just on its old stuff. So we want to first come to grips with the fact that we are a trinity, that we have access to the infinite power of the universe. We also have this body, that's the program, and then we have ourselves in the middle of the frequency, and that our job in the middle here is to listen to the program, which will tell us, it will give us little signals initially that say, there's a problem here. If we ignore it, it will project out into the universe. And the longer we ignore it, the more it will continue to project until one day it gets loud enough that we listen to it. We reach rock bottom. I'm actually going to do an episode on that whole concept and why it works and stuff, like why it happens the way it does. But for this, I wanted to give you guys some simple things that we could start doing right away. I realized with some of my other episodes that there was some value in there. I mean, there's great wisdom in there and understanding, what we are, the ripples and the outer self, stuff like that. That's great. But now we need to permeate that out into the rest of ourselves. And so I think having some steps that we could take, some processes that we can follow, will make that even easier. So I mentioned this in one of my other podcasts, but I would say, to begin with, like if we're in the early stages here, one of the most powerful things you can do is set your overall intent of how you want to be always. Now, what's beautiful about this intent, I've said it in a past episode, is remember, you don't do, you only think, and you only set intent. It is your superpower. And you can say, well, how is that true? I've intended things before. Well, that's because Um, sometimes we set our intent from a consumer mindset, and so it's just dragging more need to us, trying to remind us that we need to change. So this intent that I'm going to give you guys is specifically and strategically designed to call forth the power of the creator within you. And we do it all the time. People just don't realize it, right? Like, you ever wonder what's courage? So, well, courage is a force, a power that you use to overcome fear. And what is fear? Fear is a belief that you are somehow in a deficit, that there is something that you want to have that you don't have the resources available to get in that moment. And the greater the fear, the more it is you believe that you either have to do something, something needs to be achieved, whatever it is, you believe that you are somehow in a deficit, and the degree in which you have that fear is the belief that you are inequipped to deal with the situation. All right, because I can be thirsty and want some water and just go grab it and drink it. Right, that's not a need, and that there's no fear there. But the fear and the need develop the more I think I'm in a deficit. I don't have the water, and I'm afraid of dying or something like that. So, if you think about it, the fear is the result of all of the beliefs that you have inside of you. And the only way that you could overcome so the program thinks I don't have what I need. So for something to give you the courage to go face something, like someone to go up on the stage and talk in front of people and they've never done it before, they are afraid because their existing belief systems do not support the likelihood that they should be able to be successful in that public speaking. In fact, maybe they messed up last time, so it tells them you are going to bomb, and everything about it is trying to prevent you from doing it. So you must override that fear, those beliefs. And that comes from the source of God, the universe, the source within, the creator force. So when someone, where does the courage come from? It comes from and relative to the degree that you call it. Same thing with patience. If you need to, if you need to call forth patience in a situation, it means your existing belief system doesn't support it. It thinks you're in some kind of state of duress, and you should be in a state of duress. So being able to apply patience to something requires calling it from the center of yourself, center of the universe, God, the creative force, and it fills you up. It's the spirit. Temperance, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, all of those things are forces of the creator force. And then on the opposite, excitement, passion, compassion. All right, those are all creator force. Those are parts of the Holy Spirit. And that's why, the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, if you will. And then you have the consumer force is anxiety, doubt, fear, anger, frustration, uncertainty. These are, and they're just there. They're the force, and they're being called forth by the body and the outer self and the past self programming, because it does not have the ability to create anything. And what's really supposed to happen is it's supposed to call out and say, hey, guys, up there, I've got an issue here. You're telling me I'm supposed to go speak in front of 100 people, and I don't have the wherewithal to do that because you didn't program me that way. Could someone call forth the mighty power of God to transform these beliefs so I'm not here in a state of suffering? If you do that and we dissolve it, then I'll stop yelling upstairs and asking you guys to fix it. It's really that simple. I mean, it's simple in the conceptual format. So what we want to do is go over here is how you can start calling forth the force of the creator. And so if I say, I can't be, now when we set out our intent, sometimes we don't even consciously do it. The subconscious is doing it automatically because of our old belief systems. And because we haven't centered ourselves, we are completely unaware of it. We are in a continuous state of reaction and we wouldn't even know it, right? But when one centers themselves and they start asking the right questions, they can kind of get to the bottom of it. But if you look at, like, why did you get up today? Why will you get up tomorrow? Most people will answer that it was some kind of need. I had to do this, I need to do that. And so what we want to do here is we want to change, because if you don't even realize it, but when that question's asked, if those answers are coming to you, that means it's not even your fault. Like, we know not what we do. When we are suffering to some degree, it's because our program doesn't support us finding satisfaction in that moment, because it fears that it's in some state of deficit. And if we are continuing to suffer, and even if we're being mean to other people, they say hurt people. Jesus was right. They know not what they do. And that's what those of you who are listening to this, like, our job here, if we choose to accept it, is to heal ourselves, and in doing so, become the light that shines on the world and give our light to other people. Because I don't believe there are bad people. Just like I don't believe a lion's bad because it eats another animal. It does so because its program tells it to. And when you see that in a human, somehow they lost themselves. They lost their connection to source, and they're suffering. So what we want to do, one of the most powerful things we can do, is reset our intent. Now, when we set this intent, what this is going to do, the more we do it, the more power we're going to get into our soul. And it's going to start making changes outside of ourselves. But we want to be careful when we set intent. So if I set my intent, I need to have a new job, I need to have money, or I need to have a new house, I need to have a new girlfriend, things like that. You're asking, and even if you don't even say it, all of these beliefs for most people are buried in their subconscious, sending out frequencies to the universe. And all of those frequencies that are getting sent, all of those requests that are getting sent out with the frequency of consumer, will keep bringing more suffering to them. Because remember, and like I said in the last episode, if the more you think you need something, the more you think you're in a state of deficit until you get it, it's an expectation. And so that's with like water. So if you have someone who's super depressed and you give them a glass of water, they'll drink the water, and it will ease their suffering from not having the water, but they go right back to not being happy again afterwards. So we don't want to be chasing things that we don't really need. And as a result of setting all these needs for things that we don't really need, we pull in so much consumer force, or pull out or give out so much of our creative force, that we're just in this suffering, and our program shuts down, and we become a consumer. And then if it gets worse, we become parasitic and outright wrathful. So what we want to do is we want to begin with setting the best intent we can. So if you guys haven't heard my previous episodes, I'm doing my episodes a little different now. I'm just going to really be focusing on specific points. But this one is intent, action, reaction, how we can set our intent, action, and reaction throughout our days. And this is a really good place to start. This will start pulling the creative force inside of you. You'll start making connections you never knew were there before, and it will really get you propelled in the right direction. And then following my future podcasts after that, it will be really, really helpful, because you'll be full of more creative spirit. You'll have what they call ears to hear, what Jesus talked about. When Jesus was saying that, he meant people can only hear as high as their frequency will allow them. So this episode is about setting your intent, action, and reaction in the beginning stages, and then you want to continue doing it afterwards, but I'll have more steps afterwards. But right now, what I want to do is I want to give you the ability to have the best use of intent, action, and reaction, so that throughout this process, you are continuously pulling in more creator force. And so that means that we're not asking the outside of us to give us things. We're instead asking the inside to give us the power. And that's where the serenity prayer comes in. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's how it's another thing that can show you that those things that I was talking about, those are forces of the creator. They're not asking God, give me a new job. God, do this. They're saying, God, give me the force of courage. Give me the force of serenity. Give me the force of wisdom. Those are the fruits and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And it's not about anything that you do. It's about what you believe and the intent that you set, because you don't do, you only set intent. And a lot of people think that karma is something that you have to work off by having the universe, you did 50 points of damage, the universe, it does 50 points of damage to you. It doesn't work that way. Instead, if you create, it's just a belief that no longer serves you, that needs to be let go, and it keeps projecting into your outer world until you finally realize you need to look within and make the transformation within, and then it goes away. It feels like, oh wow, the universe is happy with me now. But the reality is, it's only ever beliefs. The past is gone. It's what you've done with your recollection of the past, what values you hold in this present moment, and how well they are aligned with your greatest good. That will determine if the universe is going to project in front of you things that you need to happen, so that you can get rid of those needs and those beliefs and change your intent. It's as simple as that. So if you think about the daily cycle, right? So You have kind of three parts of the day, right? You have morning, afternoon, and evening. And so I like to look at the evening is when you set your intent for the next day. Think about it kind of like the cycle of the seasons. You have, you have spring, summer, fall. Yeah, that's perfect actually. So spring, summer, fall would be spring is the morning, summer is the afternoon, fall is the evening, and then winter is when you sleep. And if you actually look at that cycle, it's kind of cool because if you look at how that works, they say you sow what you reap. A lot of stuff in the Bible talks about seeds, and mustard seed grows in tall trees and all that stuff. Look at your thoughts like they're seeds, right? So you reap what you sow. So in the fall, a lot of the plants that you see coming up, the ones that don't have bulbs, but a lot of the stuff that you see coming up in the spring, in the morning, is what was planted in the fall. All right. And so all the beautiful stuff that you see growing is the result of the intent from last season. The seeds that were planted last season, they come up in the spring. So they come up in the spring. And so the spring is the action of the spring, which is like the morning, is the action. And the fall, which is like the evening, is when you can set your intent. And then during the summer, as we go into the summer, that's when the reaction occurs. Right? And the summer is like the afternoon. And it just kind of works like that as a cycle over and over and over again. So the morning you wake up, that's action. All right, you get out of bed. And then the day goes throughout the day. And throughout the day, the universe is going to throw things at you, new things that you didn't expect. And you're going to react to them. And based upon the way the universe reacts to you, by the time you go to bed, you're going to set a new intent. And then you're going to go to bed and you're going to wake up and you're going to have your action. Now, what people don't realize is the way that you feel when you wake up in the morning has a lot to do with what you set subconsciously or consciously, usually subconsciously, in your thoughts before you went to bed. The reason we sleep is so that all aspects of ourselves have an opportunity to communicate. You know, I could say it on a spiritual level, but you could even say it on a psychological level from a scientific perspective, although I think it's much more than that, but I'll keep it science-based for this. You have your subconscious and your regular conscious. They don't talk to each other in words. Like I use parts of my mind that don't use words at all. Mostly when I'm not talking to other people, I think in colors, but because I've learned how to access that part of the ethereal mind, or you could call it subconscious mind, whatever people want to call it. But it doesn't think in words. It's just different, and so that's why a lot of your dreams will be like simulations, because it's the one thing that all aspects of ourselves can understand is that kind of playing out like that. And so what's happening is there's movies playing, and they're all just they're doing simulations to try to figure out issues. But if we don't set a creator mindset intent before we go to sleep, then a lot of the intent is going to be rooted from the consumer mindset we've instilled in the programming of our subconscious. It's going to be fear-based, and it's going to just drive us in this circle that like feels like it never ends. So I can't tell you, I used to be a major insomniac. It's so remarkable to me that I go to bed at 9, and I just very rarely, sometimes I'll still wake up at like 3 and I go right back to bed. I never thought I would ever in my life be able to sleep the way I sleep now. It's so amazing. And so what we want to do is we want to set up our intent, action, and reaction for every day. So the first thing I would suggest is you want to reprogram your root programming. And most people's root programming is based on like our DNA and our animal programming. It's not an ascension intent. It's kind of this survival intent. And what's the point of surviving if you're not even alive, right? In my opinion. And so what I did is I set my primary objective in life. I'll cover the other three in a different, I'll go over all three of these later, but for now, definitely this is very, very, very helpful. This intent. Say it as often if you want. Say it as often as you can remember to say it. Because remember, you don't do, you just think, you just think, and it does. So, and your intent is behind that. So, and this is a huge part of the reprogramming. I choose to be the best, to create the life that I love the most. And now when you're saying it that way, you're not asking the universe to give you anything. It's like the serenity prayer. You're calling forth the force of God, of the universe, into your body so that you can be the best to create. You're asking to create. And all the forces, the creator forces, come by the degree in which we're seeking to create instead of seeking to take from the world. And the faith that we believe it's going to come, and the intent that that's truly what we want to do, is what will bring in how much. And so the more we say it, the more we do it, and you'll start to be driven by faith. You'll be free and released. It's how you have the higher mind take over. And that's the master that I believe that we should have served. The past is just fodder and ingredients so that we can figure out how to transform it for the future. I look at my past like an old beat up car, and I'm a guy who likes to do mechanics, and they bring it in their garage to not to keep it the way it is, but they actually love transforming it. Most people are bored in their lives and in a state of suffering and instant gratification seeking because they've forgotten that their past isn't the leader, it isn't the master. It is the beautiful opportunity they have to transform the person that they thought they were. And that person is just someone that we have the opportunity to transform. So it's like, that's the whole point. It's why it can be fun, believe it or not. But you have to take control. And so you do it with that. Now, the other thing I want to discuss, and then we'll end this one, try to keep them around 30 minutes, is all right. So we know that is your highest, that's what I said is my highest level intent. I choose to be the best, to create the life I love the most. Also notice that it's present tense. It's always present tense. You can say it anytime, right? And then we're going to have nighttime. So I'm going to read to you guys. I'll put this in the description. I know I've said that before. I'm going to have to go back and put everything in there. Okay, this is what I say every day. So the subconscious gets programmed by the degree of emotion involved. So we want to start reprogramming the subconscious. And so at night, I say this, and what it does is it sets my intent for what I want to happen while I'm sleeping, as well as it imparts emotion into all of it, but it's all positive emotion. You'll hear that instead of anxiety, it's excitement. Instead of worry or sadness, it's happy, things like that. So there's a lot of things behind why this is very successful, but I always encourage everybody, if you like the idea of it or the concept of it, but something doesn't sit right with you, reach within yourself and make some adjustments. I just wanted you to kind of get the overall understanding of how it works, but it does work really well for me and others that I've given it to. This is what I say every night. I say it 3 times. I say it out loud. I also notice my voice changes when I do it, and I think there's something to do with tone. And they say atone for the sins of the father. I don't fully understand that part yet, but so I say, today was beautiful. I have learned more than I knew the day before, and will take all of this great information into my dreams, and I am excited to apply it to become even better. I am so happy that my next day, I will continue to be love incarnate, present in the moment, diligent, prudent, temperate, passionate, resolute, and knowledgeable. I am grateful that tomorrow I will be even more humble, kind, patient, charitable, compassionate, and understanding. I am a multidimensional being. I live to create. I love to create. I am love incarnate. I am the Father and the Son. I am the desire and the creator. I am limitless. And I say that every night, and it's like, it's such a beautiful, and it's so powerful. And it will become, the more you do it, you'll start seeing it in your life, and that will give you more faith. And then that faith will give you more power. And it's that's the power of love. I don't know why I did that. I heard in my head, Back to the Future, when they were singing that song, That's the Power of Love. And it burst forth, but a lot more off key and off pitch. Anyway, so what I'm basically laying out here for you guys is that you basically you have your intent, your action, or your reaction, right? And I focused a lot of my previous podcasts on understanding how beliefs drive things and stuff like that. But now what I want to do is I really want to get into practicality for you guys, because just knowing that you have core beliefs in there doesn't just dissolve them automatically. It takes some time. And so what we want to do is we want to just get filled up with the Holy Spirit as much as possible. And this simple answer to that is to continuously call it. If you notice in that thing I read to you guys, I said temperate, prudent. The reason for that is all virtues. When you seek, when you value, what you're doing in that thing I just read to you when you're setting your intent for tomorrow is actually, let me go over with you guys. So in that thing I read you, I said today was beautiful, blah, 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 right? I'm excited to apply to become even better, right? But if you notice, there's I ams in there, because remember I said at the core of everything is your belief in I am. I am a multidimensional being. I live to create. I love to create. I am love incarnate. I am the Father and the Son. I am the desire and the creator. I am limitless. So now what you're doing is, I bet most of us don't go to bed during the most prime time to set our intent for the next day for transformation. Most of us, because they're not changing it, and they don't even have to say it like this, their brain is saying, I'm a human. I live on a rock. I am Veritas. I have a job. I am what I did yesterday. I am only valuable if I have things. Right? So just by saying that alone would be powerful, but we took it further. If you notice, we're saying, I'm happy that my next day. So and now you're not saying I want, I need. By saying I am so happy that my next day I will continue to be love incarnate, present in the moment, diligent, prudent, temperate, passionate, resolute, and knowledgeable. Most of those are virtues that people know of the 7. When I recreated myself and my project that I did for myself, I came up with 12 virtues, and some of those were in there. And each of those virtues calls forth the power of the Creator. But you're calling it forth by knowing it. He who is without vision shall surely perish. What that means is you have to create that future you, but you're focusing on your values. This is what not only do I value these things, I am going to be these things. I'm calling it forth. And each of those things, it's amazing. So humility gives you more ability to create. Patience gives you more understanding. Diligence gives you more courage. Temperance gives you more discernment. Prudence gives you serenity. So there's a lot of magic in this thing. So I just wanted you guys to understand why that happens. So what we want to start doing is, remember, set your highest intent that you can say all the time, often, as frequently as possible is what I choose. I choose to be the best to create the life that I love the most. And because I only set intent, that's the rock that's greater than I, and I'm calling forth the almighty power of God. And then in the morning, action. So I'm going to have a specific episode on each, both the action that you would have in your day, how to react to stressful situations. And in this one, we covered, some things that you can say to yourself to set your intent. But we're also going to discuss some practical things that you can do before bed that might be helpful as well. Let me think here. All right, we're at 33 minutes. Yeah, that's good. So the next episode that I'm going to do, I'm going to cover action in the morning and how do you react to things throughout your day. And then I'm also going to cover in how we react to things throughout the day. A really good friend of mine gave me some tips on I had talked about in a previous podcast that how we can understand why we have upsets during ascension and what we can do to prevent them. And so when I'm talking about the reaction to things, I want to discuss kind of the best way that we can react to the upsets after they've happened to deal with them. All right, guys. Love you. Thanks so much.